Hello? Yes, Steve Jobs? Yeah, you said you needed me to make a video for like everyone that doesn't know how to edit videos, right? I don't know if I could find the audience for that, if I'm being completely honest with you. I'm sorry, say that again? You're kind of breaking up. Oh, they're watching. Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna hang up and make this video real quick. Alright, okay, I'll see you. Bye. The first thing you want to do, open up Premiere Pro. Alright, so once you're in Adobe Premiere Pro, you're just going to go File, New, and go to a project. Now here you'll see Location. Now this is the file that your project is going to be located in. So what you're going to do is quickly press Browse, go to where you're going to be putting your project at. I just so happen to have a file called Video Projects. Put it in the file that you want. Me, I have this How to Edit Correctly file. And the next thing you have is the name. Now with the name, you can put whatever you want. This is all up to you. Now this next part is purely up to what the specs of what your computer has. My computer, I can have my GPU handle a lot of this editing, but you might not have that. So you might want to switch your renderer to software only. Everything else, video, audio, capture, all need to stay the same. As along with everything else, scratch discs and ingest settings, leave them alone. So once you've got everything set up, you just want to hit OK. Alright, now we're inside our Premiere Pro project. I just want to give you a quick congratulations for making it this far. So you might have a lot of questions right now. I'm going to help answer those for you real quick. So at the very top of the screen, File, this is where you're going to be editing all of your project settings. Edit. This is where you're going to be editing stuff inside the project, not in the file. Clip is where you're going to help yourself organize. Sequence, I'll get to that later. Markers, this is where you mark stuff inside of the project. Graphics is where you can add fonts. Window is probably the biggest thing, because if you don't have a nice workspace that suits your needs, you won't have none of that workflow. And if you don't got workflow, you ain't going to be snappy. And if you're not snappy, you won't get things done very quickly. For window is definitely up to personal preference on what you need. The very bare minimum of what you need is what I have checked. I would suggest what I have right here, work it on, and if you need something else, just continue to watch my tutorials and I'll help. Okay, now that we're done with window, you have help. This just brings you to the Adobe website on whatever you need, but you have Google for that. Alright, now that we're done with the basics right now, we can finally start putting things inside of Premiere Pro. Now what you want to do, you can double click on the project files right here, double click, and then it brings you to the file that you selected in the beginning to where everything goes. You can either do that or you can go straight to File Explorer. And then after File Explorer, you can just go straight to the file that you saved it as. What I like to do is just drag it and drop it right into the project bin. At the bottom right, you'll see Generating Peak File. This helps enhance the performance of Premiere while it's working on that. To get everything started, you want to drag it into your timeline. Now this is where the magic happens. This is where everything is going to start off. You can see in the program monitor at the top. Now in Premiere Pro, the biggest thing that you need to learn is organization. So the quickest thing I like to do is at the bottom of your project window, you press New Bin. With that new bin, you can name it whatever. I'm going to name this one Video. I keep everything in a bin in all caps so that it's a lot easier to see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my video clip into the bin. When you do that, you'll kind of see the clip tabbed under the video bin. You might think that it might look unorganized at times. You just have to press this little arrow right next to the bin and it hides it. Anytime you need to go back, click it again, it pops back. Now this other thing right here at the bottom, that's your sequence. That's your entire project that you're working on right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new bin and then I'm going to name it project. And once you make that project file, you just want to drag it and put it right in. Close it again just so it stays more organized. If you want, you could make another bin with audio, green screen, whatever you want to name it. Just make sure you stay organized. So now we have everything ready. We have everything in your project ready. We're organized. Next step is the clip that you selected. Now in your timeline, which is 2 windows of the right from where we previously were, you'll see this blue bar. This blue bar is the clip that you have selected. Double click it. At the top left, you'll see the source window of it. Now if you go to Effect Controls, you'll see a whole bunch of numbers. So position, this is X and Y. The X, of course, is horizontal. Y is vertical. You can move these, and as you can see in the program window, or the program monitor, you can move it up and down, and side to side. Now scale, this is just how big or small you want to make this. Uniform scale, I don't ever touch uniform scale. Rotation is self-explanatory, the number is the degree. Anchor point is where all fixed effects will work. So if you have an effect and you want it to stay there, and you don't want it to move with the rest of the position, you're gonna use anchor position, or you're gonna use anchor point to make sure that it stays there. Anti-flicker filter, if you want to stop things from flickering, you just turn it up. Opacity, this is a really big one. This is how shaded your photo or your project is going to be. Like if you have something you want to put in the background, but you don't want it to be in the way, you just turn down your opacity. Your volume can go to negative infinity and up to 6 decibels. You can change everything in your settings. This is all up to you. Timing wrapping, I'll go into depth in that in another video. I'm going to show you guys how to cut and move some of the stuff and show you a couple tricks as well so that you can save some time. Alright, after we get through the effect controls, I'm going to bring you down to the timeline. So in the timeline, you see a bunch of locks and you see a bunch of V1 and A1. V1 is video 1, A1 is audio 1. If you want to select which one is the default, you just click into another row of your timeline. The lock is pretty self-explanatory. If you don't want this thing to move anywhere, you just lock it. This is of course applied to the audio as well. The V1s and the V2s next to it, that's just numbering for it, and it helps you know which ones are going to be enabled. Okay, so right here you see toggle sync lock. Say that I edit 2 different clips and I want to keep what I already have there. If I turn this on, cut something out, it will prevent me from unsyncing something. The eyeball, of course, this is if you want it to be visible or not. If you click on the eye when it's bare, you can see it, but if you click on it and has a cross through it, that means you won't be able to see anything. The M, this is how you mute the tracks if you don't want to hear any of the audio from a specific track or row. Now the S is solo track, and this will make sure that if you have multiple audios, that you don't have to go through and click off every mute. You just have to press the S and it will only listen to that specific track or row. Now the little mic is a voiceover recording. If you want to do voiceovers while you're editing, and you can just go through, talk through whatever's going on. At the bottom you'll see master. This is just how to change over the master volume of the entire video. So for these up top is insert and overwrite sequences as nests or individual clips. This basically controls when you drag and drop something on top of each other, if it will just add to it or take away. Snap, this is really self-explanatory. I've already cut something down here in the timeline. As you can see, those little corner white, those are snaps. It snaps to where it used to be. So you can move this anywhere you want. And if you say, oh, I don't actually want it there, you just have to move it back and it snaps it to where you want. If say you accidentally cut something and you want to move it back, but you don't want to have to look frame for frame, Snap will directly snap it to what you just cut or what you want it to be and where you want it to be. As for link selection, so say if we go back to how we were before when we have this cut and you want to bring this out. As you can see, when we're dragging, you have 2 bars that are being thrown out. Now if you deselect this, you will only drag 1 bar out at a time. This can be useful if you're using like some kind of audio syncing. This next one is add marker. It's basically a bookmark for your editing. And I don't really need to go through this right now, the timeline display settings. This is just everything that pops up. Alright, so up at the program monitor, we have add marker, mark in, and mark out. Add marker is going to be the exact same thing as it was down in the timeline, except when you click on it, it's just going to pop up in your program monitor. Now, as for mark in and mark out, if you start your cursor somewhere in the timeline, say right here, if you start it here, it will mark in that. And if you press mark out, it will mark out the rest. Now, as for go to in and go to out, where you just marked will determine wherever that goes. Now, if you choose to not have a mark in or a mark out like it was previously, it will just go to the end of what you have as a project. Now, of course, the button to the right of the go to in and to the left of go to out is step forward 1 frame. You have play or stop. So I hear you saying, okay, well, what about lift? So lift is an easier way of copying and pasting. Let me give you an example. So if you press mark in to mark in a specific clip area and press mark out, lift has total control of what happens between those 2 lines. So if you press lift, it will delete it. Now, when it moves to the clipboard, it can be placed anywhere, of course. So if you want it here instead of where it was, you can of course move this back, go back to where you originally were, and paste it. So I hear you saying, what does extract do? So it works in very similar ways as lift does, except it doesn't move it to the clipboard, and instead of just deleting it and leaving a space there, it deletes it and fills the gap. So if we want to test it out, extract, deletes it, and fills the gap. Now, you don't always have to extract to fill gaps. If you have a gap like this between these and you don't want to have to highlight it and move it, just to link up again, you can easily right click, press ripple delete, it will delete the ripple. Next, of course, is export frame. So say I wanted a picture of good old boy Ethan here. That's a cute picture, right? You want to press export frame. You can name it whatever you want, and you can change the format. It's basically just going to take a screenshot of it and save it to your computer. Now, comparison view, this goes back to program monitor and source monitor. It will show you the reference, which is the original clip, and what you have now. Now, of course, this isn't all the buttons that you can have under your program monitor. There's this little plus at the bottom right, and it's your button editor. You can add whatever button you want. They all do different things, of course. It's all up to personal preference. Now, inside of program monitor, there are also a few things. So zoom level, if you press 400, of course, it's going to zoom in 400, 10%. It's not going to mess with your timeline. It's just going to mess with how visually it looks. And to the right of it, you also see another drop down. It says full 1/4. As you can see, when I drop the quality, you can only see when I drop the quality through when I'm playing. This is basically what the resolution of what you're playing will be. Now, this little tool here, this little settings button, the main ones that I see that you need that aren't necessarily on there already are safe margins, which put margins around here. This will be really handy when we get into keyframing, because you can make sure that things are centered with these little bars. The rest of these are just overlay settings and other things that you really don't need to be worrying about unless you're really deep into this. I think that just about sums up the beginning of what you need to do to start editing in Premiere Pro. If you need something different, just let me know. I'll make a video on it just to make sure I help you guys out. If you did find this educational in any way or helpful in any way, do me a favor, drop a like, subscribe, comment, something nice, I guess. Make sure you subscribe to Ethan Becker. He's an awesome dude. He gave me this footage. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace out. Subscribe.